Welcome to Flow. Let's get started. Today we'll begin lying down. Bring the bottoms of your feet together, open your knees away from each other, and bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your heart. Find a few moments of breath here. Maybe allow your eyes to close if that feels comfortable. And with every exhale, feel your body sink a little bit heavier into the mat. Notice any tension you might be holding on to. Find a little bit of wiggle of movement around that tension. Bring your hands to the outsides of your thighs. Close your knees together. Bring your feet flat and zipper your inner thighs together. Press into your feet, lift your hips up off the mat, and squeeze your thighs together. I'm going to take a little series here. Press your hips up, squeeze your thighs together, and then lower down. Now we're going to take that again. Press your hips up and squeeze 6 times. In and in and in. 6 times with a squeeze. And then after your 6th time, lower the hips. Lift your hips back up and now squeeze 5 times. Crush the thighs together. Little squeezes in and in. And after your 5th, lower the hips. Press the hips up and now 4 squeezes of the inner thighs together. The feet should be touching, the big toes should be touching. Lower the hips. Lift your hips and now take 3 squeezes. Lower your hips, press back up, take 2 squeezes, crush the thighs together. Lower your hips, press back up, take 1 squeeze of your thighs together. Lower your hips, press back up and hold for 10 seconds. Crush the thighs into each other. Final bit of effort here. Crush the thighs together. Press your hips up higher. And now slowly lower your hips back down to the ground. Bring your knees into your chest, hands behind your thighs, and rock and roll yourself to an all-4s tabletop position. Right away, start to move yourself into your cat and cow. So on your inhale, drop your belly, lift your chin, lift your gaze, and on your exhale, find your cat spine round to the upper spine. Take this about 3 or 4 times. Move with your breath. Finding a little more range of motion through the spine, getting a little bit warmer through the major joints. And then after your final set, bring yourself back to a neutral tabletop position, flip your toes, and find a downward facing dog. Lift your hips up into the air. And you can take a few moments here if you'd like to pedal out through your feet. And then try to energize your heels down towards the ground. If they don't touch, that's no big deal. Just feel that length all along the backs of your legs into your calves. From here, lift your heels up high. And now bend your knees, keep your heels lifted. Inhale, straighten your knees. Exhale, lower your heels with resistance. We take that 2 more times. Inhale, lift the heels. Exhale, bend your knees, press into your palms. Inhale to straighten your knees. Exhale, lower your heels with resistance. Last time, inhale to lift your heels. Exhale, bend your knees. Inhale to straighten your knees. Exhale to gently lower your heels back to your downward facing dog. On your inhale, lift your right leg high. And then bend your right knee, open your hip. Find any small or big movements that might feel good to the joints of your right leg. On your next inhale, extend your right leg, and now take your right foot and cross it behind your left foot. So you might need to adjust your feet and bend through your knees. Start to walk your hands back towards your feet from this cross-legged downward facing dog. And then a little bit of a balance challenge here. Keep the cross of your feet and slowly roll yourself up to stand. And once you've come up to stand, reach your arms up overhead. And now grab hold of your left wrist and tip yourself up and over towards the right. Bend your knees if you need to. Really press your hips over towards the left to counter this side stretch. Come back to center. And now opposite, grab your right wrist and tip yourself up and over to the left. You might notice you want to bend your front knee a little bit deeper. That's okay. Bring yourself back to center. Bring your arms down, unravel your feet, bring your big toes to touch, send your hips back and find a chair pose. So we're starting to build a little more heat in the fronts of the thighs. Also want to continue to find that squeeze of your inner thighs together. a little deeper into this balance challenge, lift your heels up high and bring your arms back behind you. Now from here, try to straighten through your knees, what's called a diver's pose. Continue to press your heels, your knees, and your thighs together. And then as best you can, try to straighten your knees and then try to tip your body into a forward fold, essentially en releve with your heels lifted up off the mat. Squeeze the heels together, squeeze the thighs together. When you need to, bring your hands down to the ground. Now you can have bent knees here. This is a pretty deep core strengthener here. Press a little more weight into your palms and bring your right toes to your right wrist. So your knees can be bent or straight, and then place your toes back down and switch. Left toes, left wrist. We're taking 5 times each side. Feel your low belly pull up and in. Press into your palms as much as you can. Lift your foot up off the mat, tap your wrist. And if the foot doesn't lift up that high, that's totally fine, even just a few millimeters, or even if it's kind of scraping on the mat, that's okay. This is just a really good way to get very, very deep into your core. Have your knees bent as much as you need them to be bent. After your final set, lower your heels, walk yourself back out to your downward facing dog. And then lift your left leg and bend your left knee and open your hip. And take any of those movements on the left side that might feel good in your joints. And now re-extend your left leg and take your left foot behind your right foot for your cross-legged downward facing dog, and feel free to adjust your feet however you need to. And now start to walk your hands back towards your crossed feet. You can have a little bit of a bend through both of your knees. And we take this balance challenge again, press down into both of your feet and roll yourself up to stand. It takes a little more control with the feet crossed. Once you arrive, reach your arms up overhead, and we take a side body bend. Start off by grabbing your left wrist and tip yourself up and over to the right. Feel free to take a nice deep bend, especially in your front knee. Bring yourself back to center and then switch this up so you can grab your opposite right wrist and tip yourself up and over to the left. Try to bump your hips to the right as much as you can. Bring yourself back to center. Release your arms. And again, unravel your feet. And you can walk yourself a little more to the front of your mat. Bring your big toes together. Send your hips back. Come back into your chair pose. Squeeze the thighs together as we found earlier. Pull your shoulders away from your ears. And now from here, with control, come all the way down to sit. If you need the assistance of your hands, bring them back down to your sides and let them assist you. Otherwise, try to bring yourself all the way down into this boat pose. Bring your palms together, open your knees. Touch your fingers to your feet on your inhale, and on your exhale, extend your arms up overhead and open your legs away from each other. And then come back to the starting position, knees open. We're gonna take this 8 times total. So try as best as you can to use less momentum and more of just the strength of your core. Try to keep your shoulder blades up off the ground when you lie yourself back. And you'll feel this zipper of your thighs. They don't come all the way together, but you have to bring your toes together and your fingers come to meet your feet. Find control as you bring yourself down. After your 8th time, bring your knees into your chest and try to rock and roll yourself up to stand. If you need the assistance of your hands, place them down. Otherwise, stamp your feet down, come to stand. One-legged mountain pose, reach your arms up overhead and lift your left knee. Cross your left leg over your right for what's called an eagle wrap, and then bring your left arm underneath your right. Squeeze your thighs together as we found earlier in the sequence. Squeeze your arms together. Can you bend your bottom knee a little bit deeper? Get a little deeper into your squat. And now an extra balance challenge. Try to bring your elbows down to your knees. You can find a little bit of rounding, especially through the upper and middle back. From here, we unravel everything. Bring your right hand down to the ground. Extend your left leg back long behind you for a balancing half moon. You can have a little bit of a bend through your bottom right knee. Try to stack your left hip on top of your right. Reach your left fingertips actively up towards your ceiling. Maybe just mess around with lifting your bottom right hand up off the ground, just that extra bit of balance there. And now slowly bring your left foot down, forward fold. Bend your knees softly and roll yourself up to stand. And we'll set up all of that on the second side. So when you're ready, shift your weight to your left foot, reach your right knee up, and now cross your right leg over your left for this eagle pose. Bring your right arm underneath your left. And then feel the compression of your legs squeezing together, your arms squeezing together, and try to sit your hips even a little further back. Pull the shoulders down your back, and then adding on to this balance challenge, try to bring your elbows down towards your knees. Continue to squeeze your thighs together and squeeze the arms together. And then from here, we unfold everything. Bring the left hand down, extend the right leg back, and reach your right arm up towards your ceiling. Now, this is a super tricky balance. If you fall out of it at any point, no big deal. Just try to bring yourself right back into it. It's meant to be a challenge. If you need a bend with your bottom knee, find that for yourself. If you maybe want to experiment with bringing your left hand up off the ground, just notice what that feels like. Give yourself one more breath here and bring your right foot to meet your left in your forward fold. Bend your knees and come all the way down to sit. Extend your legs so they come in front of you. Extend your arms up overhead and release yourself into a seated forward fold. Find a few long, deep breaths here. Every exhale, allow your torso to get a little bit heavier towards your legs. And now slowly roll yourself up. Bring the bottoms of your feet together. You can bring your hands to your ankles or your feet. Lift up through your chest, through your spine, and then let your heart space lead this as you fold over your legs. You can keep your hands on your feet, or you could crawl your hands out in front of you. Let your head be heavy, let your jaw be loose. Come back to the sensation of your breathing here. And now slowly walk your hands back towards your feet, roll yourself up, and we'll end in a cross-legged position. So bring one ankle in front of the other. Bring your hands to rest on your knees with your palms facing down or up. Allow your eyes to close or find a soft gaze. And take these final moments to come back to the sensation of your breath. Take a moment to notice and acknowledge physically or mentally any shifts you might feel. Thank you for joining us today. And that's your flow.